Okay, it's a couple of minutes past. Lots of people have joined, so I think we'll get started. Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar today. It's a really interesting one actually. We're going to be looking at and giving some advice on how you can develop engaging managers. I think that's managers who are engaged and managers who are able to engage workforce. I'm looking about how managers can support your organisation to thrive and survive. Yes, I'm going to say it in the new world of work. My name is Peter Wild and I am your host for today. I head up the employee listening employee experience platform at Tivian. I've worked here for the last couple of years, helping lots of clients internationally doing very cool employee listening programs and journeys. And prior to that, I spent the last 20 years in the industry, most recently as head of engagement for Unilever. I'm delighted to be joined by Kate Pritchard today, who is an expert in this area of engagement and leadership. But perhaps, Kate, you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi everybody, great to be with you today. So thanks for that, Peter. My name's Kate. I also work at Tivian. I've been here for about 14 months now and I head up our engagement and leadership offer. And really what I do is support our clients to use our technology, but specifically to ensure that managers are getting the information from surveys that they need to really drive improvements and to create engaged teams and improve the employee experience. So that's something that I'm really looking forward to talking to you all about today.
Great, thanks for that, Kate. Okay, so briefly then what we're going to be, I guess we'll be about 20 minutes, 30 minutes today, just covering off some top tips and hints and stuff. So the four things that we said we were going to cover off today, which we are going to cover off today, are these things. So it's managing in that new world of work, what that's going to look like, what the differences and challenges are going to be, the role, the critical role of a manager in supporting and improving employee experience within an organisation, some hints and tips on how to set up managers to do that. They're not necessarily skills which everyone should be expected to have, but they need to. And then finally, the final piece we'll talk about is the importance of regular feedback. It's absolutely essential that you have that in place to be able to do any of this stuff, because otherwise, how do you know whether or not you're succeeding? So about Tivian, for those of you who don't know, for many of you may know of our previous incarnation as Questback. So Questback have been going for about 20 years. We've rebranded this year, and the new company is now entirely focused on enterprise clients, so working with large organizations doing interesting stuff. We do market research, we do customer research, we do huge global projects around that space, but really our focus is on employee experience. That's where our skills lie, and that's what the new company is going to be doing. So that's the tagline, I guess. But what it's essentially saying is that we help organizations get their insights from whichever sources we don't mind, hard and soft data, and to use that data in a business critical manner to help the decision making to make those organizations a success. How do we do that? Well, we're moving, I guess the whole industry is moving from the last few years. We'll talk about the journey of the industry in the next slide, but in essence, moving away from a kind of reactive listening to people and that's it, listen to different facets of their life, talking about which we call kind of experience management, to using AI and machine learning and predictive analytics to move on to a more intelligent way of gathering, harnessing and utilizing data, as shown on that slide. So on the journey then, for those of you who've been involved for many years, you'll know that there was a period for about 15 years where employee listening programs tended to be paper-based, and we've seen that obviously that transition, it seems like a different world, we've seen that transition to everything being online, towards annual surveys and then perhaps pulse surveys, but really quite limited in the listening and definitely limited in how things are used and utilized to help drive businesses forward. I guess the last few years we've seen this move into something called experience management, which at its core, I guess, is a more holistic set of listening programs, which organisations tend to do. So touch points around different aspects of work at different stages of one's career, and bundling that together and calling that experience management, which is a vast improvement on employee engagement. But what we're seeing now and what we're doing, and why Tivian's starting and what we're doing going forward, is what we call employee experience intelligence, namely using the tools which we now finally have available to be much smarter to help organisations with their people data. So I'm now going to hand over to Kate to talk about managing the first topic, which is managing the new world of work.
Lovely, thank you, Peter. So I don't need to tell you how the world of work has changed so much over the last year with COVID and everything that's brought. We all know that there's been massive changes in the way that we work. Thankfully, things are starting to improve in the UK. I think for some of us, we'll be back to the office sometime soon, but it does seem unlikely that so many people will be working in their offices Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, as they used to be. In fact, I have read several reports over the last couple of weeks that have talked about large numbers of people saying that they would resign if they were forced to return to the office full time. I think figures up to sort of 25 or 30% of employees saying that that would be the case. So clearly something that we want to avoid. And it does seem that the way that we work has changed significantly. And managers, it is likely that many managers will be managing hybrid or dispersed teams for the foreseeable future. And that, of course, brings new ways of working, new challenges for managers. And there's just three that I'd like to focus on initially. The first is around communication. So communication is obviously a key area of focus for all managers. It's very important that managers are communicating regularly with employees so that they know what's happening within the company, they know what they're expected to do, and they have that opportunity to feed any concerns back. Now, when people were all working together in an office, as well as formal meetings, there was a big emphasis on just informal communications, quick chats to people, to update people on latest developments, etc. But with people working in different locations and hybrid working, there is now a need to be far more intentional with the communication that we have with our people, and to make sure that our communication is inclusive. So managers just need to give more thought about when they're planning meetings to ensure that everybody is able to attend, and to make sure that regardless of where employees are located, their meeting experience is equally positive. So they're able to interact in the same way and be treated in exactly the same way, regardless of how they join meetings and how they're communicated with. The second topic is around well-being, and obviously the last 12 months has been incredibly difficult for many people, and our combined mental health has certainly deteriorated. What we're hearing at the moment is that there are still really high levels of anxiety, and some of that comes from uncertainty about the future of work. Some people are feeling very anxious about the prospect of potentially returning to the office, but they're unsure about when and if that is something that is going to happen. For other people, they are feeling very anxious being at home at the moment. Perhaps they also live at home, so they're feeling very isolated at the moment. So there's various things in play that are influencing how anxious people are, but we know that clearly anxiety is bad for our mental health, bad for work performance. So there's a real emphasis on managers connecting with employees, understanding the concerns that their employees have, and providing the support that they can to reduce anxiety and to keep well-being high. The third challenge is around employee contribution. Some of us, one of the positive things about the pandemic was the opportunity to work a little bit more flexibly and with more autonomy than previously. What we know has happened in the past is that there has been too much focus on presenteeism in some cases. So people that were very visible and perhaps worked long hours received better rewards, etc. There's been recent research from the ONS, which has backed this up actually, and said that those that worked at home over the last 10 years were less likely to be promoted and less likely to receive higher bonuses than those that were very visible in the office. And I think this is just something that managers need to watch out for moving forward, that when they have people in different locations, there's no unconscious bias. And it's not that the people that they work most closely with that are more visible and in closer proximity are treated more favourably. So we need to make sure that managers understand that this is a potential issue, and they need to be focusing on outcomes and recognising people based on their results and based on their contribution rather than their proximity or visibility. But definitely the pandemic has brought with it an increased emphasis on people management skills. And I think now there is a realisation that managers have an absolutely key role in engaging employees. Particularly during the pandemic, it was often the case that an individual's only interaction with their organisation was through their line manager. So there is now a recognition that line managers are critical to how people are feeling, and also a need that managers do need to receive support and to be skilled, upskilled to ensure that employees remain engaged. We know that in some organisations, traditionally, people were promoted into management positions because they were great from an operational point of view. They were really good at their job, so they were promoted without really any thought for their aptitude or interest in people management. And importantly here, previously, in some cases, they were not given the support they needed to grow into roles of being great people managers. Whereas now there does seem to be a real understanding that managers need to be able to balance the getting things done part of the job with being able to inspire, develop and empower others, so being great people managers as well. And this is backed up by a lot of different research, but a couple of papers I've pulled out here. Research by Anderson and Adams shows that the #1 differentiator of effective leaders is strong people skills. And they did research looking at the strengths of the most effective leaders, and 6 of the 10 top strengths of the most effective leaders were around people skills. So things like listening to employees, empowering them, etc. And very recent research by Josh Burson on the human-centered organisation shows that leaders who put their people first and make success happen with their people have more sustainable, lasting success. So I'm sure this is obvious to you. I'm preaching to the converted, but it's just showing that there has been an increased focus on the importance of people management skills, and they will remain extremely important as we move forward. As we foster a more people-centered approach within our organisations, there are 3 skills and 3 areas that I think managers really need to focus on. And these are listening, developing and motivating. So first, listening, and I know this sounds really obvious, that we all think that we're listening all of the time and this is a skill that we all have. The reality is that many of us are listening at a very low level. We're listening within a conversation and we're listening to respond. Those of us who are coaches know that there needs to be a focus on deep listening to really understand how people are feeling and how valuable it is to be just listened to, rather than people coming up with solutions and answers for you, people just listening to you to understand your context. So what we're talking about here is managers who are able to listen to employees, to demonstrate empathy and to really build that deeper personal connection with employees, which makes them feel a lot more valued as well. So ensuring that in one-to-ones, managers are making time to really listen to employees, understand their situation as human beings rather than just as employees. And also within team meetings, making sure that everybody has the opportunity to contribute, that everybody's view is listened to in an inclusive and judgment-free environment. The next area is around development, and this is all about really moving away from micromanagement towards more of a coaching approach. So where we're acting like coaches, we're working with our team to set clear expectations, But then there's intentional delegating and a real focus on problem solving. This is providing our team with more autonomy. It's making them feel more empowered, and ultimately it can help to build their resilience. So as managers, we're supporting and guiding them and helping them to come to their own solutions rather than having all of the answers and making them reliant on us as managers. And then the third area is around motivating our people. So this is all about being engaging managers. And key things here are making time, making ourselves available for our team when required, making sure that individuals are recognised for great performance and that we're celebrating successes as teams, and also that we're positive role models within our company, that we're living by the values and acting with integrity. So these are really important areas for managers to focus on. But we know that we do need to provide that support and development opportunities for people to be able to be these great people managers. It doesn't happen overnight when people are promoted, and a one-day training course or a short training course, as valuable as that might be, certainly isn't enough in itself. So what we want to do is ensure that we're providing an ongoing programme of support to develop people management skills. And really what we ideally want is for it to be part of every leader's role to develop those direct reports that they have, so that we throughout the organisation are continuing to develop people and to have an organisational culture where people development is a real strategic priority and something that all leaders recognise as really important, and that we have processes in place to then support people development. That we have regular development conversations across the organisation. So our line managers are regularly talking to their team about the things that they need and their own aspirations for the future, but also that our line managers are having these conversations with their own managers as well. So ultimately, we've got a culture within our organisation where everybody's expected and encouraged to develop as a leader. We also want to encourage our managers to make time for collecting feedback, whether that be formal or informal, to make time to reflect so they can sort of think about where they need to focus and put an intentional focus on their people, make time for self-development and also for self-care. We're actually putting a lot of focus on managers caring for their teams and understanding how they're feeling. So it's really important that they also make time for self-care. So I'd just like to pause and ask a quick poll, because I think this is quite an interesting area. And just to understand, if you don't mind, if I can find the poll, which is the biggest challenge within your organisation in relation to this? So we want to know, what is the biggest barrier to people development within your organisation? Is it a lack of strategic focus on people development? Is it a lack of support from more senior managers, so your managers aren't getting the support they need from their manager? Or is it because managers are not taking the time or haven't got the time for self-development? So I've just opened that poll. Hopefully you can see the questions, and I'd love to see your responses. Okay, well, that's interesting. So what, oh, it's changing. Oh, well. Okay, that's interesting. I think, thank you everyone for responding to that poll. Interestingly, we have 43% of managers not making time for self-development, and I did think that could be an issue. It is really difficult, and I think this is a challenge of being in a manager role, that you've already got a very busy day job, you've got an awful lot on your plate looking after your people, but it is just making that time for self-development as well. So everything that we can do as HR and as more senior managers to really help people to make that time would be really good. I don't know whether I shared that, but apologies if I didn't. I'm sharing the results now, so you can see that, and now I'll hide. Thank you for that. So just in terms of how we at Tivian can help managers to improve, obviously we're all about employee feedback, and we've got a range of ready-made pulse surveys to support managers and to enable them to very quickly get feedback on their performance. So we've developed a number of surveys, one around line management effectiveness and one about leading in uncertain times, where managers can actually go into our system and send out this survey to their team and get instant feedback. We also have a Leadership 360 survey that's pre-built to look at how we can help our managers be transformational leaders. And again, that's something that's self-driven. So at any time, managers can log into our system and get feedback from their team, from their manager and their peers in terms of how they're doing, in terms of their own performance as a manager and helping them to develop. As well as these ready-made pulse surveys, our technology enables you to make up your own surveys to really focus on the things that are most important within your organisation. So whichever management behaviours are most critical to your organisation, to develop a survey around that, decide whether or not you want to get feedback from just the team or whether you want to do a 360 approach. And then to build into the dashboard some nudges and some suggestions for improvement, depending on what the results are. We're all about democratising feedback at Tivian and making sure that, as well as providing the data back to everybody, we're really supporting them to make improvements. One of the things we really want to support managers with is to create a great employee experience for their team. So we know that managers have an absolutely critical role in creating a great employee experience. Factors that together create this great experience will, of course, vary between organisations, but these are 10 areas that we think are pretty consistent across all organisations. So what employees are looking for at work is a job that is very clear. They know what they should be focusing on each day. They have the autonomy that they need to get the job done. And their job has an appropriate level of challenge, so it's interesting without being too stressful. That they're trusted to get on with the job, to get things done. They have the opportunity to connect with colleagues and others through the organisation, as well as customers. They're given recognition when they do their job well, and they have the opportunity to develop, whether that be to be great, to be sort of excellent at their current job, or whether that be to be promoted and to be developing through the organisation. They want to work for an organisation where there's a real purpose that's meaningful to them. Obviously, we want to have organisations where everybody is valued and everybody feels included. People need to have the resources they need to get their job done. They need to have the opportunity to have their say and to feed back on important issues. And we want to ensure that their well-being is looked after. So these are all really important areas for employees. And you can see how clear the manager's role is, particularly in the top row of these areas. These are pretty much down to how people relate to their managers is how their experience will be. So we want to make sure that managers are doing everything they can to ensure a great experience for their employees. Now, we're hoping that as managers, there are good conversations happening throughout, but typically we run surveys to ensure that managers have the whole wealth of information across the whole employee experience. At Tivian, what we do is make sure that the tools that we provide are designed to support managers to use survey results to drive improvements. So our technology provides things like user guides and discussion boards to really understand what managers should be doing to create a great employee experience. We make sure that our dashboards have nudges so that managers know what they could do differently to improve the situation. And we've got the ready-made pulse surveys that I already mentioned. So as well as having pulse surveys around line management effectiveness, we've got a range of pulse surveys related to different aspects of the employee experience. So these are all tools available within our technology to support managers to improve the employee experience and to be engaging managers. So I think that's everything I wanted to cover, actually. Just in summary, what we're seeing is in this new world of work, strong people management skills are more important than ever. They really are essential to being an effective manager. Managers do need support and guidance to thrive in the new ways of working, and we need to make sure that they are making the time for that self-improvement. It's really useful to get feedback, both from your team and from other managers. And the role of the manager is absolutely critical to providing a great employee experience. Managers do need to prioritise listening to employees and acting on employee feedback. That's the #1 thing that will make our managers engaging people managers. Back to you, Peter.
Great, okay. Thanks for that, Kate. Yeah, loads of interesting stuff in there. That's really fascinating. We do have loads of thought leadership materials on our website. We have white papers and blogs available on a wide range of topics, everything from leadership, as Kate's just been talking about, to continuous listening and tech and AI and everything in between. So feel free to visit the website and download all of that good stuff. It would be great as well if you could connect with the new Tivian organisation on LinkedIn, and also with Kate and I as well. We are friendly and approachable, and if you'd like to reach out to us to talk about what we could do in the space of leadership or employee listening in your organisation, then that'd be fantastic. But thanks again, Kate, for that. That was really useful, and I hope people have enjoyed it, and we look forward to hearing from you all.
That's lovely. Okay, well, thanks very much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. That was just a quick half-hour session, and we really appreciate you making the time. Many thanks.